My name is Hannah, and this is my year of less stuff. Hey y'all. All right, I'm doing it. I'm filming the video about what I would buy if I were starting from scratch with my makeup collection. This video idea originated as a skincare video. I talk about skincare all the time. I talk about what I'm using. I talk about what I recommend. I talk about what I would buy if I didn't receive PR. And it eventually became clear that it would be really helpful if I could kind of narrow down, kind of like consolidate all of that information into a very, very clear video saying, here is exactly what I would buy if I had nothing and I was starting over, just building my own skincare routine from scratch, buying it all myself. So I did that. I did it for skincare. And at the end of that video, I was blithely like, let me know if you want to see something like this for makeup, you guys. And then in the comments, you are like, we do. We want to see something like this for makeup. And then I was like, great, I'll do it. So I sat down and I started making the list, and it proved to be an entirely different beast from the skincare version of this video. With skincare, it's easy. It's like, here are all of the functions that I want my skincare to perform. I need an oil cleanse, I need a second cleanse, I need something to exfoliate my skin, I need something to put hydration into my skin, I need a vitamin C serum. Like, I just have these slots that need to be filled. So it's just a matter of putting one thing into each one of those slots. Because in the skincare world, I'm perfectly happy just having one of each type of item, and each type of item really signifies just a function that I need that item to perform. So it's basically like one vehicle for each ingredient or each physical task that needs to be performed by my skincare. When we start talking about makeup, it calls into question a question. It calls up a question that didn't exist in the skincare video, which is the question of how much variety I feel like I need or want in any given category in makeup. So I found out that for some kinds of makeup, I really only want one. Some kinds of makeup are very similar to skincare for me. It's like I only need one primer, I only need one green color corrector. I feel like I only need one mascara, that kind of thing. So of course I'll be telling you which one I would buy if I were buying them all from scratch. But then when I get into more fun cosmetics, color cosmetics, eyeshadows, blushes, those kinds of things, this was an exercise in sort of asking myself what the ideal number of products would be. And I'm not totally sure that I know the answer to that. It was tough. I also battled for a while as I was conceiving of this video. I battled with whether I was actually asking myself like exactly what I would actually realistically buy if I were in the situation of needing to build my makeup from scratch. And so when I went through the exercise, sorry, I have like there's like a fuzz on I think I got it. I think I either ate it or got it out of my mouth. I think I might have eaten it, but it's not on my face anymore, so we can proceed. I did go through the mental exercises, sort of asking myself how I would behave if, with my kind of like current financial situation, maybe in the dream world where like there's no coronavirus, just like abstractly thinking about my financial situation as it was, as I've been functioning with my budget, etc., up until recently. In that situation, if I were to have lost all my makeup and then started from scratch, what would I realistically buy? So I was like asking myself what I would need, but I was also taking into account how much I would feel comfortable spending all at one time, where I would indulge, and where I would cut corners. And that was really stressful. That was really difficult because I think that the truth is that if I truly were starting from scratch, if I lost everything, I would start really small and slow. I would just get a couple of things, like one or two things, just to make do with like brightening up my complexion, canceling out redness, maybe the ability to do like one quick eye look. And then slowly over time, I would build the rest of my collection, adding the pieces one by one. I wouldn't go out and buy absolutely everything that I wanted to own for my sort of streamlined collection all at one time because I wouldn't want to spend the money all at one time. So when I thought that through, I realized that that's a different video. That's not the one I want to film today. This isn't a video telling you what are the bare bones things, like the exact few things that I would go out and buy if all of my makeup disappeared to get me through. In this video, I'm reporting to you about what I've decided on as like my dream foundation of my collection. Like basically the dream collection that I could live with pretty happily. It gives me enough variety, it gives me what I crave, but it's like on the most minimalist end of the spectrum of what I imagine that collection could be. This is basically like what I dream I would build over time if I started from scratch, and what I would hope that I would be able to kind of stop at and at least sort of sit with for a while, and then proceed from there with what I learned from only using this collection to maybe buy a couple of more things. So I did take pricing into consideration in that I only included things that are worth their price to me. So there are things that I could see myself buying in the event that I were starting over from scratch and buying everything with my own money. But I wasn't putting pressure on myself to keep the overall total cost down. In a way, however, I was putting pressure on myself to keep the overall total number down, because I do think that if I were starting from scratch tomorrow and building a collection, I would be trying to build a much smaller collection than the one that I have now. And so I would be trying to make really, really smart choices about what I picked and what I spent my money on, because I would want those choices, those items, to go a very, very long way, to be so satisfying that I would feel like I didn't really need more or didn't need much more. So that is what I'm about to present to you. That collection is what I am about to present to you. I have a feeling it's going to be kind of a long video because it's not a ton of products, but there are a number of products. Like, I know how many products there are, and for me to even briefly mention all of these products would take kind of a long time, and you know me, I'm incapable of briefly mentioning a product. So it's going to be a bit of a long haul, but I feel like that's perfectly suited to this time of human history and YouTube history. It's what I want to film right now, and I feel like it's what a lot of you guys want to watch right now. There is also kind of a surprise twist ending. There's something exciting. This video, the conception of this video, has given birth to an idea for another project, and I'll be talking about that project, kind of announcing that project at the end of this one, so I hope that you will stay tuned for that. Let's go ahead and get into the meat of the video. Let's get right into it with none of the usual post-transition dallying. The first category is skin. This isn't necessarily the order in which I put things on my face. I just decided to go kind of in order of category, like I grouped the categories together. A lot of times I do some skin prep and then I do my eyes and then I go back with my base, but I'm going to address all of the skin products at once, like all of the prep and base types of products all at once. So I would only buy one primer if I were starting over from scratch. I'm not a person who feels like I need a variety of primers or different primers for different occasions. I only need the one, especially since I've discovered the VDL Lumilayer primer. It is just absolutely perfect. I feel like it both illuminates the skin and helps to minimize pores, and that's very rare. A lot of times luminous primers will enhance the pores. That's why people go in with multiple primers. They like put luminous primers on these points and then put blurring primers on the pore points. I feel like this illuminates and blurs my skin, and that's what makes it the ideal primer for me. Also, it sits beautifully over my skincare and it sits beautifully under makeup. It's just perfect, but you all know that. I've talked about it like 1,000 times on here. That was like the easiest one to guess, I feel. So then moving into actual base makeup for canceling out redness, evening out the tone of my skin, brightening, maybe a tiny bit of sculpting. I always like to have a green color corrector, but I don't think that I would purchase the Algenist one again if I were starting over from scratch. Even though it's better value for money in terms of the size of it and how long it lasts, I would buy the one from Sephora, the Sephora brand Bright Future green color corrector. I just love the serum-y quality of it. I find this one to be ever so slightly mattifying, which isn't that bad because most of my other face products are glowy. And so I end up like mixing it in with them and it all ends up balancing out. But I miss the Sephora one. It's only $14, even though it's like a smaller tube and it doesn't last as long. It's just such a lovely product, and I like that it doesn't feel like it's taking a bite out of my budget every time I purchase it. So that's definitely the one that I would buy if I were starting over from scratch. So those first two were pretty easy. When I started moving into questions of actual base makeup, I had to sit with myself for a little while and really use my imagination. Like, I had to really, really project myself into this theoretical situation and really ask myself what I would do. And when I did that, I realized that I would repurchase my Makeup Forever Ultra HD concealer, and I would probably repurchase it in the shade that I have, which is 11, the shade Pearl. I have felt off and on like it's too light. It's really, really brightening. So to use this as like an all over the face product, it's too much. It's too brightening. But because most other complexion products aren't quite light enough for me, it always works out to balance them out. So putting it under the eyes, putting them on my chin where I tend to have the most redness, putting it under my eyes and on my chin, it helps to kind of like even out the impression of my face and make me not just look like either like I have fake tan on my face compared to my neck, or like a ghost if I were to put something like this color all over. It's just like a really, really useful product for me, and that's why I've almost completely panned it. Like this one's almost completely empty and I've already popped the stopper out and everything. I don't think I'll need to replace it when I've used it up in my current situation because I have a couple of other concealers and other base products floating around and I can like scrap them together and make do. But if I were starting from scratch, I would pick it. It's also the most skin-like concealer. Actually, at this point, given the one that I'm about to mention, I'd say it's maybe like the second most skin-like concealer or one of the two most skin-like concealers I have ever tried. And that's my jam when it comes to base products. So this is one that I would buy. And then I realized this is so wild because this is a product that I said that I was going to give away. This is the Air & Space's Radiant Firming Concealer. This is the other most skin-like concealer that I've ever tried and is so, so, so dewy and creamy. It feels so nourishing on the skin and it's so dewy. Like it makes me look like I have oily skin, but in that elegant, glowy way, not in the way that's tough to handle and that makes you want to powder your face. Whenever I put it on, I look at my face, especially like partway through the day, later in the day, and I'm like, what is that glow? It looks like the most skin-like highlighter that you could have, but it's coming from the concealer. I just know from having like worn it and then not worn it and worn it and then not worn it that it's every time I wear this, it's that impression that I get on my skin, especially as it wears throughout the day. I said that I was going to give this to my mom, and I put it in my giveaway box, and then I missed it. I was kind of surprised at how much I missed it. I really love giving things away to people, so often I'll love a product or at least really like a product, but the chance to give it away to someone will motivate me to declutter and let it go because I already have so much. And so I'm putting things sometimes in my giveaway box that I do love. It's just that I would rather give them away than keep them because I love giving them things away so much. So that was the case with this. I was like, I have other concealers. My mom is really going to love it. And I missed it so much that I pulled it from my giveaway box and I decided to keep it. And then I bought one to give to my mom. So my mom did end up with one. And I took it back into my collection. This is the lightest color that Air & Spaces makes. It's called Cottonwood, and it's a decent match for my skin tone. It's a tiny bit on the yellow side. It's really, really quite neutral, but if anything, maybe a tiny bit yellow, which is what I am. And it's a really good match, but it's not as light as my neck. So if I use it as my only concealer just all over my face, I will look like my face is quite dark compared to my neck, and I don't like that look. But if I just use it like on the sides of my cheeks where I have some acne scarring, and then lightly on my chin, and then I brighten up those spots under my eyes with a lighter colored concealer. So I'm essentially using it in the way that people traditionally use foundation, but it's so emollient and I buff it out so much that it just puts like a thin layer. It's almost like I'm using it like a tinted moisturizer, especially if I like mix it with my color corrector, mix it with my primer. And then I lighten with one that is brightening on me. Oh, it just makes my skin look so good. It makes my skin looks so good. And I'm so glad that I took it back out of my giveaway box. I've been loving it lately. Weirdly, I've been reaching for this more often than the other contender for a foundation type complexion product, which would be in this theoretical situation, the Bare Minerals Complexion Rescue Stick Foundation, which I just purchased with a gift certificate for my birthday. But since I've taken this back and been using it, I've realized that it's a better match for my skin. I don't have to work as hard to make it suit me. It's lighter, it's brighter, it's a little bit less pink. And the Bare Minerals one, especially once it oxidizes and dries down, it just is quite dark. It's harder to work with, I think, than I realized when I first got it, and then I was hoping that it would prove to be. So I've been defaulting to this time and time again. And if I were starting from scratch with my makeup, I don't think I would be able to keep myself from purchasing this. And then lastly, when it comes to base, I can't do without like a spot concealer. And this is the one I've had for years. It's the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer in the lightest shade Chantilly. It's not light enough to be brightening on me either, but it's the perfect match for my skin for spot concealing. And it's also matte. And I feel like it is good to have at least one matte or semi-matte complexion product in case things start to look too dewy. I can go in with a little bit of this and just sort of like tone it down a tiny bit. So I would definitely add this into my collection if I were starting over from scratch. I think that I would be happy and be able to really even out my complexion and get my complexion to look the way that I like it to look. I think that I could do that every day with just the Sephora green color corrector, the Makeup Forever HD in like a brightening color, the Erin's Faces concealer in Cottonwood, and the NARS Soft Matte Complete Concealer for just blemishes and, you know, stubborn spots and spots that are getting too dewy. It would be enough for me. I love complexion products, I love base products, but I do feel like it's an arena in which when you have the ones that work the best, you don't need all the others. It's like, it's an arena in which I would prefer the best over variety. Now we're moving into an area of the face that is the opposite of that. It's an area of the face that's literally all about the question of variety, and that is the eyes. So when it comes to priming the eyes, I don't need variety. And I currently have this Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion business that was sent to me in PR. If I were starting from scratch, I would not buy this. I would buy the Milani one, which I have never tried, but I've heard that it's literally exactly the same. And I would rather just like buy the drugstore one than buy the one from Urban Decay. And here comes like the big question. It's like the question of the day. Eyeshadow. If I were starting from scratch, how much eyeshadow would I feel like I needed, and what would I choose? Not a lot. That turned out to be the answer. Really not a lot. I really took myself to task with figuring out the smallest amount that I would be happy with. And this is partly for the sake of my wallet in this theoretical situation. Like my current eyeshadow collection is worth a lot of money, both the stuff that's come in PR and the stuff that I've bought myself. The singles that I've bought myself over the years, it's a lot. It adds up to a lot of money. And I don't think that I would spend it all again. And I don't think that I would spend the money to buy some of the things that I've gotten in PR. I would definitely buy the Rowan quad. That would probably be the first thing that I did. The 75 degrees warm quad. I would just get the one. If I were truly starting over from scratch and I was kind of aiming for something relatively minimalist, I think I could do without the other quads, and I could do without the disco shades. I could just handle having the 75 degrees warm quad. It's the one that I reach for the most by far of all of the Rowan products that I have. And then I know that I would need something really practical, like something that can do it all. And to me, that is the Persona Identity 2 palette. I use this black and this dark brown to add dimension to looks almost exclusively. I rarely reach for anything else unless it's a black and a brown that I've put in like a singles palette that I'm traveling with, and I'm like keeping that on my vanity and I use it instead of reaching for a pre-made palette. Unless I'm doing that, I'm always reaching for this. This is my black and my brown of choice. And then there are all the colors in here, and I feel like I could mix any of these colors into an eye look with the Rowan quad as the base of the look, and I could get something that's colorful and textural. If I put down like the light brown, sort of like the light browny taupe in the upper right hand corner of this Rowan quad, and then mixed in like Empowered, this shimmery red, or I could mix in Driven, the green, I could get like a grungy taupey green that has a lot of texture. I just feel like I could make any of these colorful shadows sort of like look and wear like a Rowan shadow on my lids by mixing them together. And I have done some of that, but what I'm saying is that I feel like adding this very textured and creamy quad to this palette that has a ton of colorful shadows, it's like exponential possibilities for eye looks. And that's what I was thinking of when I thought about what I would buy. I was trying to think of like, what are the fewest number of things that I could buy that would create the exponentially most possibilities, that I would have the most variety with the least number of things, the least like pieces of makeup. I also love the performance of these shades. They never let me down, just in terms of like straight up powder products, how they blend, how they perform, the pigment, the depth. They are like the best of the best to me. So I would definitely get this palette and this little palette. That would be it for palettes. That would be it. And I know that I could do a lot with those two guys. Like I know that I could really, really do a lot But I don't ever want to be without Clionadh singles ever for the rest of my life, because to me, they are what allow me to like do the most on my eyes. They add so much dimension. There's so much possibility. They're so gratifying. I reach for them constantly. So if I were starting over from scratch, I would place an order for 5 shadows from Clionadh. That's just what seems reasonable to me. And these are the 5 that I would buy. I would get Forge, which is the one multi-chrome that I would get, the jeweled multi-chrome, so the more expensive ones with like that really dense blackened pigment that shifts to a bunch of different colors. Forge shifts it's like a green to red, so it's really dimensional, but it blends beautifully into my sort of like smudgy, smoky bronze type eye looks. I just find that it's not too colorful. It doesn't compete too much with the neutral looks that I tend to go for, and yet it has that kind of alluring dimension. So it's definitely my favorite of the multi-chrome, the jeweled multi-chromes that I have. And the other ones are the glitter multi-chromes. They're Blaze, which is kind of surprises me. It's like a light peachy one, and I just end up reaching for it way more frequently than I thought I would, because it's not one of the ones that stands out as like being the most special. But anytime I do like a peachy or a soft like reddish eye look of any kind, I always end up tapping this over top, and it always just lights it up. So I would definitely purchase Blaze in this scenario. And then across the top here are my 3 like just absolute killer shadows. There's Abrasion, Grisaille, and Corrosion. I'll swatch these guys for you. So this is Forge. This here in the middle is Blaze. That's Corrosion right there. That on my pinky finger is Grisaille. And then I put Abrasion onto my thumb. So those are the 5 that I would buy. I imagine that with the Rowan Quad, the Persona Identity 2 palette, and those 5 shadows from Clionadh, I could do almost everything that I always do on my eyes. Almost everything. The thing that I'm missing with those 3 and all of the combinations that they offer, the thing that I'm missing is like a sheer, glittery champagne shade. It's the shade that I use from the Natasha Denona Gold palette called Kava. And then the other shadow that I have that's kind of like that is from the Tom Ford cream and powder duo in Naked Bronze, the shadow that's on the top. So these days, interchangeably, I reach into Kava or I reach into the Tom Ford product to just get that wet shine all over my lid and up into my brows. And I'm wearing it today. I have this sort of like bronzy, smudgy, sooty look, and it's finished with the one from the Tom Ford duo, the shadow from the top of here. So I feel like if I were building my collection from scratch, I would want to acquire a shadow like that. And I love this duo enough, and I use the cream on the bottom frequently enough that I think this would be it. It's less expensive than the gold palette. So if I'm just trying to buy like one thing that will give me that sheer glittery topper, and I want it to feel really special, and I want it to like have a worthy place in my very edited collection, I would be perfectly happy to spend the money on this in this theoretical situation, and I would definitely want it to be in my edited collection. I wouldn't buy any Natasha Denona palettes. I think I would miss them. Like I would miss the gold palette a lot, but I don't think I would buy it. I don't think I would buy it with my own money. I don't think that it would be worth it to me. I've said this before on my channel, actually, talking about like things I've received for free or PR that I've gotten that I wouldn't buy with my own money. And all of my Natasha Denona palettes were in that video under the category of something that I love having received as a gift, but that I wouldn't buy myself. And I think that that still holds true. The one thing that I would miss the most would be Kava, that one shade from the gold palette. And this is a perfectly respectable stand-in. And this is something that I would happily buy at this point, now that I know how amazing it is. So for eyeshadow type products, for things that are like designed to be eyeshadows, those are the 4 products: the Rowan Quad, the Persona palette, the Tom Ford duo, and the 5 Clionadh shadows. I think I could make do with these, and that's the little collection I would build. I do think I would want to put some just like true glitters into this collection, and there are just the 2 that I own right now that I think I probably wouldn't be able to keep myself from repurchasing if I were starting over from scratch. The Slayfire glitter gel in the color Sully. It's like an iridescent purpley blue, but it's very bright and light. And then White Rabbit from Lemonhead LA. These are my two favorite glitters, and I really, really love them. I think that in the world of glitter, I would be happy with just them. So they're the two that I picked for the ones that I would buy if I were starting over from scratch. And this just feels like such intense abundance of wonderful, textured, colorful eye look possibilities to me. Like I'm looking right here at these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 products, the palettes, the singles, the little guys, the glitters, and I'm just like, wow, like it's awesome. It's perfect. They're perfect for me. It's the perfect little minimal collection for me. Other eye enhancing types of things, eyeliner. This is really interesting. I would like to say that I would be like happy with just a black and a brown and that I would get them at the drugstore. But in truth, I think that if this scenario were really happening to me, at this point, I'm so enamored of the Urban Decay eyeliners. I only have the one. I got it in PR and it's in the black. It's Perversion. But I like it so much better than all of my other eyeliners that when it's time to use a black eyeliner, I'm excited. I'm excited because it's so creamy and it's going to be so easy to work with. The other ones that I have are perfectly fine, but I wish I had this eyeliner in a bunch of different colors. And I think that if I were going to purchase eyeliner from scratch, I think I would just indulge myself and do it. I think I would buy this in my 5 staple eyeliner colors. So I would get black and brown, I would get a taupe, a burgundy, and like a deep smoky green. I wrestled with myself because if I were to do that, if I were to get 5 Urban Decay eyeliners, it would be over $100. And I was like, would you really do that, Hannah? I think that I would probably start with just the black and the brown, and then over time I would slowly collect the other ones, you know? But if we're talking about like my ideal minimal makeup collection, minimal, you know what I mean? The bare bones of like my dream collection for myself, yeah, I would want 5 of them and I would want those 5 colors. And then lastly, mascara. If I were starting over from scratch, I would just buy myself the Milani Highly Rated mascara. I have this pretty much dead tube of it. It's like all dried out, and I was keeping trying to like scrape the bottom of it because it's so volumizing that it helps to build, even in its dry state, it was like helping to build volume when I put it on underneath other mascaras that I'm wearing. But since I started testing the Gucci mascara and the other mascara that I'm testing that I'm not allowed to tell you guys about yet, but it's coming soon, I've pretty much stopped using this. I think it's lived its life. But I do have the tube still to show you, which is why I'm telling you this long story about mascara. It is the one that I would buy if I were starting over from scratch. I would be perfectly happy with just this. Let's talk about the second most difficult category for me, and that's cheeks. This was hard because I actually want to say that this was more difficult than eyes. I was daunted by the challenge of coming up with this like edited collection of eyeshadows, but it came together pretty easily for me. Like I instantly was like the Rowan Quad, the Persona palette, the Cleona shadows, and I had to like think a little bit about this and about the Natasha Denona shadows, but I didn't agonize. With cheek products, I agonized because there's only like the one, you only have, I mean, you have 2 cheeks, but you only have like one application onto the cheeks. On the eyes, you can like layer things and add dimension and use multiple products, and there's all of this like variety, and you can add things together to get exponential potential, all this stuff. With the cheeks, it's just like you have one and you just use it and that's it. You've made your decision for the day. You've put like the color on your cheeks that's going to be on your cheeks. So it felt more indulgent to pick multiple products in this category. And for a while, I like lied to myself and I was like, I could make do with just like one Charlotte Tilbury Spotlight wand and like one powder blush, and that would be it. And then I was like, no, Hannah, what would you really do if you're really building your collection from scratch? How many cheek products would you want? And I was like, I'd want a handful. I would want a handful. I just bought a handful of blushes in January. So that's like the tale. Like that tells the tale about what it is that I want for myself. I want some variety in this category. But it was really interesting when I, again, sort of projected myself into this theoretical situation. I really focused on trying to be honest with myself about what my behavior would actually be. Like which ones would I actually go ahead and buy, even if it was over some time? Which ones would I like break down and buy? And these are the ones that I decided on. I would absolutely want to have the Charlotte Tilbury Spotlight wand. And I think that if I were starting over from scratch and I didn't have any, I think that I would be able to allow myself to buy two of them. Right now, I have this one, which is the Beauty Light Wand in the color Spotlight, which is just like a champagne color. And so I use it kind of like as a mixer. Sometimes I'll put it on just by itself as a highlighter, but that gives me like a very blank faced look because it's, it doesn't give any color. It's just the highlight. So it's a very like no makeup glowy look. This comes in other colors now though, and there's one that I really have my heart set on, which is Pillow Talk Medium. It would be a glowy blush on me. It would be a blush in this format. And I think that if I didn't have any other blushes right now, I would buy it. Like the only thing that's keeping me from buying it is the fact that I have other blushes that need my attention. So I thought about saying that I would just buy that one, but I think that if I were starting over from scratch, I would also buy this one because it's such an amazing mixer. I mix it in with almost all of my cream blushes to get that highlighted look, and I like it so much better than putting on a cream blush and then trying to like apply a highlight on top of it. So I would want this for mixing, and I would want this in Pillow Talk Medium as a glowy blush. And then here are all of the other blushes that I think I would probably buy. I think I would actually do it if I were starting over from scratch. This is really interesting. It's this weird product. I think it's like a mini or a sample size of this L'Aqua & Co. Bee Lighter that my sister's friend got in a BoxyCharm and then gave to me. And I love it so much. I've almost completely panned it. It's what's giving me this glow on my cheeks today. It's so shiny. It really gives me that like oily glow on my cheeks, but it sets down. I love it. And it's almost gone. I only have a couple of other uses left in it. When I use this up, I likely won't repurchase it because I have all of these other cheek products, not just these ones, but other ones in my drawer that need my attention. And if I were to buy this again, I would just pan it again, and then I would, I wouldn't be giving due attention to the other ones, which I also love. But if I were starting from scratch, if I didn't have that burden of knowing that I have more cheek products than I can ever use, I would buy it for sure. I would buy the full size of this. I think I would probably repurchase Glossier Dusk if I were starting from scratch, because at the end of the day, it's the nude, it's like the deep nude blush that I have that has the most brown in it without being an actual brown, which is what Eros is. When I swatch it next to all my other like brownie nude blushes, it wins as the brownest, and I really appreciate it for that. So I would probably put it into my collection. I also love the way it looks on the eyes. Eros, this is the Rituel de Fille, what's it called? Inner Glow Cream Pigment. It is my like true brown. I love this. I love mixing it in with other cheek products, and if I were starting from scratch, I would definitely want it to be part of my bare bones collection. I don't think that I would be able to keep myself from repurchasing the Can Make Cream Cheek in 16. I love the moussey texture of this as much as I love, if not more than I love the color. I like the color, but it's the texture and how easily it blends out and how easy it is to work with that has really got me in love with this. And also it's only $8. So I think I would buy it as part of my bare bones collection. This is sort of a surprise. I've mentioned this a couple of times lately, but the Clean Fresh Cream Blush from CoverGirl in Flushed. It's the color that surprises me about this because this isn't my usual blush color palette. It makes me look like I have a fever. It's like that really, really, really hot, flushed look on the cheeks. And I just have been loving it lately. It's really been like a revelation to me in terms of blush color. I think there's something about the fact that it's a cream. I think a powder blush in this color would not do me any favors. I think that would really make me look like I was trying to make myself up like Marie Antoinette. You know what I mean? Like it would really, really make me look like, where's your powdered wig? But because it's a cream and it blends into my skin and it really looks glossy and it really looks like my skin is fleshed from within and not like the color has been applied on top, I'm loving this color. And I would definitely buy it. I would definitely buy it if I were building my blush collection from scratch. So interesting. And weirdly, I think I would also buy ColourPop Roosevelt. I just reach for it all the time. It's like the perfect happy medium, the perfect blend of all the things I like in a blush. It's like the middle ground, and I would miss it if it was gone. So those are all of the cream blushes that I would buy if I were building this collection from scratch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 straight up blushes, and then 2 like highlighting products, and then this one, but like the blush version of it. So I feel like this L'Aqua thing and the other Charlotte Tilbury would also be like glowy blushes. It's a lot of blushes, but I kept adding. Like I made the list and I made it like really stringent and minimal. And then I was like, but what kind of life do you really want? Like, what kind of blush life do you really want? And I was like, I want to like 6 or 7 cream blush life. I don't want this like 2 or 3 blush life that I'm pretending to myself that I would want. Powders though. Powders, I don't want a lot of. These are the only 2 powder cheek products that I would buy if I was starting from scratch. The Kevyn Aucoin Neil Highlighter, which is just my bronzer. I use it to bronze my face and also to bronze my neck when I want to. And I would also buy the Lancome Blush Subtil in Miel Glacé, my dream powder blush. It's the only powder blush I've ever loved as much as I love it. And it's the only one that I want. I feel like the only time I ever wear powder blush is when I decide to wear it because I want to wear a Miel Glacé. Or another way to say that is, this is the only blush that ever convinces me to forego cream cheek products ever. So it's the only one that I would buy. But I would definitely buy it. I would definitely add it into my collection. So if I followed through with that, if I built my blush collection from scratch, I would have 10 products. And that's including everything: powders, creams, highlighters, blushes, bronzer, everything. 10 products all told. And that sounds like a great number for me. That sounds perfect. For brows, this is interesting. I have this cake of soap that I just acquired somewhere along the way that I've been using for soap brows, and it works perfectly well. But I realized that if I was starting from scratch, I would probably buy like one of those pre-made soap brows kits. So if the Patrick Ta one had already released when this theoretical situation was happening to me, I would buy that one. But there's also one on Ulta's website from West Barn Company soap brows kit. It's like in a little tin. If this were happening today and I were like buying all these things today, that's what I would do. I would buy like a soap brows kit that's designed for soap brows, or maybe the one from Iconic London, something like that. The only reason I haven't done that is because it's against my nature to go out and do that when I already have a cake of soap that's working. But I'm not in love with the soap that I have. I just feel bad replacing it when it's fine. So if I was starting from scratch, it would be an exciting opportunity to buy one of those dedicated soap brows kits. And then I would want a brow pencil just to have. I don't usually fill in my brows, but every once in a while I will, especially when I get so that I've gone too long between stints of dyeing my brows and they start to get kind of thin and patchy, as they are right now. Actually, I used a little bit of pencil in my brows today. I would just get the one from ColourPop, the Brow Boss or whatever it's called. I like the match of like the ashy brown that they have. It works well for me, and I like the texture and everything. So I would just go like drugstore priced for a brow pencil. Okay, moving on to the final category and the third one that was really difficult. So complexion was easy for me, and then eyes, cheeks, and lips were more difficult. And this one, I like what I picked. I like what I decided on, but I'm really curious about whether it would be realistic for me like to be satisfied with just these things. So when I sat down to execute this project of picking these things, I felt pretty convinced that I could be happy with a very edited lip collection, especially compared to what I have now. So that's what I kind of went for. Not as edited as I initially felt. I did add a couple of things in as I went. I started out with like 4 products and I expanded it to 6. But 6 is still really edited for me. So the first 2 that I picked are my 2 Maybelline mattes that I love the most. So Raw Chocolate and Gone Greige. I didn't initially have Gone Greige. It was one of the ones that I added in later because I realized I didn't have anything that was like very edgy. Raw Chocolate was an easy one. If I could only keep one lipstick, it would be Raw Chocolate. So I would, if I were starting from scratch with lip products, I would rush out, I would buy Raw Chocolate, and I would throw Gone Greige in to have something edgy. And then the next thing that I would get would be this Gucci lip voile that I just reviewed. I just purchased it for review and I've been wearing it nonstop since I got it. I feel like I could live with this as my only red lip. I think that that's true. Right now I think that that's true. We'll see. But I think that I could live. I'm sort of foreshadowing the surprise twist at the end, but we're very near the end now anyway. So if you've made it this far, you can know. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try just using these lippies and we'll see how it goes. It might be that I don't miss my more intense matte reds or my deeper reds, my more statement reds. It might be that anytime I want to wear a red, I could just throw this on and be happy. I've worn red lipstick way more frequently since I've gotten this than I ever wear it. And so that tells me that I might be happy with just this one luxurious Gucci lipstick as my red. So I put that in there. And that's it for lipsticks. I feel like a slightly edgy, like grayish lip, a perfect brown lip, and then an easy to wear sheer red. I feel like that's all I need for like strong lip color. I feel like if I were building my collection from scratch, bare bones, I would get those three and then I'd be like, let's see how I feel. So the other three products aren't lipsticks. This is my little tiny Givenchy lip pencil in number 9. And I definitely would buy this if I were building my collection from scratch as my one lip liner, but I also use it as a lip color. I will often wear this all over my lips. It's basically my perfect My Lips But Better nude. It's absolutely perfect for me. I love this as a lip liner and as a lip color. And then originally I just picked the one gloss, the Super Lustrous, the gloss from Revlon in the color Blissed Out. I absolutely love the way that this gloss feels and looks on the lips. But I have this, I haven't told you guys about this yet. I have this Bobbi Brown crushed oil infused gloss. It's like a pretty new release from Bobbi Brown, and actually sent this to me a long time ago, and I just haven't talked about it yet on my channel. But I keep wearing it because I keep wanting to put on some kind of gloss and then reaching for my glosses, and they all feel like too much like makeup and not enough like something that will nourish my lips. And this looks very makeup-y. Like it's more full coverage, it has more pigment in it, and it's more statement. Like if a gloss can be statement, it's more statement than the Super Lustrous, the gloss, which is very sheer, and it's sort of like sheer and shimmery and pink. This one's a little bit more opaque and a little bit more nude on me. It's what I'm wearing right now, but I think it's kind of worn off. I'll reapply it. So I feel like it looks more like makeup, but it feels more like a lip treatment, and it really treats my lips well. It feels more like a lip treatment than the one from Revlon. I just know myself, and I love this gloss enough, and the price of it is low enough that if I were genuinely starting over from scratch, I just wouldn't be able to keep myself from buying it and adding it into my collection. This one would be more of a considered purchase because it costs so much more money, but I feel like this would be my like high-end nourishing gloss of choice. They sent me the color Free Spirit. I didn't get to choose. It's perfectly fine. I'm not totally sure that's the color that I would buy if I were starting over from scratch, but I would buy a neutral color that suits me in this gloss formula. And that is it. Those are the items that I would purchase for myself if I were starting over from scratch with my makeup collection. And I imagine that I would be all right with this for quite a while. I think of all of my other makeup and I wonder if I would miss it. And that's where the surprise twist ending with my impending experiment on myself comes in. But before I tell you about it, I'll tell you that these are 33 items, and I added up the pricing. I don't think I was very exact about it because then I started like adding and subtracting some pieces afterwards, but I think that they add up to about $650 in retail value. So I definitely wouldn't be going out and like dropping $650 all at once on these products if I was starting from scratch. I'd probably start with a few of the, or all of the Complexion products, I think, and then maybe like maybe the Rowan Quad to start, and like a couple of blushes and a couple of lipsticks, and then I would like build from there. But I think that I would build from there until I got to this point, or I would maybe make this list and then cross things off the list one by one as time went on, so that I wouldn't be like straining my bank account too much all at once. And then I would hope that I could be okay with this for a little while. It's kind of like my dream makeup collection. This is what I think, but I want to find out by actually putting this into action if there's anything that I'll miss that I forgot about, like that I didn't account for. So I am going to put away all of my other makeup. I'm going to do it right now. I'm going to put away all of my other makeup, and I'm going to pretend that this happened to me, that I started over from scratch, and that this is all of my makeup and it's all that I'm allowed to use. There are a couple of exceptions. My mascara, I'm just going to keep using the mascaras that I have floating around right now, the ones that I'm trying to make my way through. There are things like this, like the green color corrector and the eye primer. I'm just going to use the ones that I have, right? Instead of the ones that I would actually buy. I'm not going to replace anything or buy anything to execute this experiment. And like my eyeliners, I don't have the exact 5 eyeliners that I would buy, but I picked 5 eyeliners in the closest colors to the ones that I would buy. So you get what I'm saying. I've used what I have to build the collection that I just told you that I would buy if I were building it from scratch. And I'm going to spend, I think, 1 week only using this, maybe more. And then I'll film a video reporting back about how it went to do that, like what my experience was like. So it's kind of like an intense pan collection shop my stash. In theory, it would be kind of fun to do it for longer, like for a whole month or something. But I'm aware that I have products in my collection that are languishing, potentially going bad, and I don't want to keep too much of my collection in storage for too long. So I'm going to do at least a week, maybe longer than that. We'll see. I'm going to angle the camera a little bit right now so you can see my whole vanity, and I'm going to go ahead and just fast forward through myself, like putting all of the rest of my makeup away and putting all of this collection in pride of place. Okay, I did it. So I put most of what was over there, all of my eyeshadow palettes and lipsticks and that acrylic thing that had some other stuff in the drawers. I put all of that in a box under my desk. And the complexion products, like the foundation type things and blushes that were in my drawer, I left them in my drawer, but I kind of moved everything over to the right. And I used some of the boxes that have been in my drawer separating things. I brought them out and used them to separate things up here on top of my vanity. So I'm filming this on Wednesday, and I'm going to challenge myself to only use the things that are currently sitting on top of my vanity in those boxes, only use those for makeup until next Wednesday at the earliest, and possibly the following Wednesday if I feel like I get to next Wednesday and like I have nothing to report. If I just feel like I haven't really had the experience that I'm looking for, I haven't really felt what it would be like if I started over from scratch with this collection. If that hasn't happened by next Wednesday, then maybe I'll give it another week. But either way, I'll report back to you guys and I'll let you know how it's going. I feel like this is a great experiment for the year of less stuff, because I'm essentially going to put myself through the paces of using my less stuff, what I currently am conceiving of. It's a guess, but I'm currently conceiving of this as like my dream less stuff result, like my dream collection. It's almost as though I imagine myself continuing to like use stuff up and trying not to buy new stuff and decluttering stuff to the point where, to this point, like so much that I get to this point. I kind of imagine that this is like one possible end result, or like the ideal end result of the year of less stuff. But instead of waiting for that to happen and then seeing how I feel, I'm like doing a little test run and seeing whether this amount of stuff or this minimal of a collection is really the end goal that I want. Let me know what you come up with when you kind of put yourself through the paces mentally of this exercise. Like if you were starting over from scratch, really ask yourself what you would buy, and then like add all of it up. Not the money, but like the number of things. Like how many things would it be? What's your ideal collection? Would it be smaller than what you currently have? Would it be bigger? Would it be really different? Like are there things that you're just trying to make yourself use up because you have them, but if you were starting from scratch, you wouldn't buy them again? You would like have all lipsticks and no eyeshadows, or vice versa. Let me know what you think. Thank you so much for watching, and don't forget to take extra good care of yourself right now so that you can be the most effective version of yourself as you do your work in the world.